company literature, so really they can wait. I have not made hard copies of the presentation, but it's available later if you'd like to have it. Okay, I'm going to get started because we have only an hour, and there's a lot in NetWare 5.0. I wish I had time to tell you all about it. I'm Doreen Christiani. I'm a local Novell systems engineer. I work out of the Rolling Meadows office, and I've actually met a couple of you that I see today. It's nice to see you. So I'm here to tell you about our upcoming version of NetWare, NetWare 5, previously known as Moab was his nickname. So just a little bit about the company. We are a networking company, so let's keep in mind we are a connectivity company. So we have since the early 80s made connectivity solutions. NetWare was always a superset of things that any one site needs to use. Even in 1983, NetWare had a lot of things in there that the average site didn't need to use. Back those are in the DOS days where you had, for example, print drivers that belonged to just every application. So your professional write and every application that you had to have their own print drivers. Well, what if you buy a brand new printer that can do something fancy, like print on the back of the paper, but their application wasn't smart enough to do that? NetWare could take care of that. So the business we're really in is to lower your cost of ownership, make it possible for you to do your work as system administrators, but you just do it once. Thank you. First of all, could you help me out with who the audience is today? Judging from some of the conversation I heard before the session, sounds like you are at least partly systems administrators. Who's not a systems type here? Okay, just a few people. Okay. Has anyone never seen NetWare before? Okay, just a couple of people. Okay, so we're mostly going on a base of people who've seen NetWare before. Okay. We sell a lot of NetWare. Sometimes I wonder myself where all that NetWare is going. We're the world leader in networking software, and we have been since the early 80s. So I'd like to say that my mom's bought all that NetWare to make me look good, but really we're selling a lot of NetWare, especially in the Fortune 500 larger companies that need connectivity, a way to do their work, manage their networks, manage heterogeneous networks. So there's a lot of Novell users out there, 80 million of them, and we sold over 997,000 copies of this stuff last year. So it's very common operating system, and what I like about NetWare is that you'll find there's the same power in the 5-user box of NetWare that there is in 1,000-user box of NetWare. So really we're infrastructure product, and as you see, most of the nodes really worldwide are connected with NetWare. And a lot of those nodes are in an environment with NetWare and something else. Most of my career is spent in integration, so I install systems or design systems for people who are using sometimes only NetWare as an operating system on the back end. Of course, they have desktop operating systems like Windows, so it's impossible to use just NetWare. But a lot of infrastructures are NetWare and Unix. Lots of NetWare and Unix. Now NetWare and NT, NetWare and mainframes. Those high-end systems like mainframes are not going anywhere. Unix is not going anywhere. So at Novell, when things become important in the marketplace, in your workplace, we invite them to the party. Macintoshes were not a player in the corporate environment when we started making NetWare. When they became important, then we wrote NetWare for Macintosh. We have NSX, we have Unix workstations, just invite them all to the party. When NT came into being, then too, now we have a whole family of WindowsNT integration products. So that was, and continues to be what we do for a living is integration. So really, everything that we make falls into one of these areas. For example, application and development and deployment. We have things like the Novell Application Launcher that lets applications follow you around the network. Our CEO, Dr. Eric Schmidt, invented the term the digital persona, which just means wherever I go, I should have the applications that I have permission to use and none others. I should have my choice of wallpaper, and if I'm dangerous, I shouldn't be able to get to the start menu. So those rights should follow me wherever I go. Whether I log in right in Novell, Rolling Meadows, Novell Paris, wherever I go, it's the same. We have network services and collaboration. We have group-wide. It's a group-ware product. It does email, but that's just the beginning. So it has a lot of collaboration functionality in that product. In the 5-user box, we have people like Domino's Pizza, and my favorite is Swedish Police using group-wide. So that's a very important product to us. We have internet services. We bundle now Netscape web servers in with NetWare. So Netscape web servers, the entry-level product is available for any NetWare user, and that means already deployed NetWare. So if you haven't already, have a look at Netscape Fast Track Server. Have a look at it, download it. We have enterprise service, so we have a high-end web server as well. We have Novell Border Manager, brand new product to guard the borders between you and external work groups, whether that be the internet or other people in your corporation. We have ManageWise, network manageability. That's our network management solution. It does a great job of letting you know how your network servers are feeling. Very mature and powerful MIB. Has 450 alerts in there, so he can tell you how he's feeling. But again, we're an integration company, so we also have an agent for WindowsNT. So you can, with the same look and feel, the same infrastructure, manage all your network servers and your WindowsNT servers. It's been a lot of great press for us lately. Network analysts kind of have to, when they change their minds about something, they have to come around slowly so they can appear to have known it all along. So we routinely get things like Product of the Year awards from Land Magazine, but some of the analysts are beginning to come around. They can be very swayed by what's really new, and we're not new. We've been doing this since the early 80s. So there's a lot of excitement around WindowsNT, and there should be, but just being new doesn't make everybody else not of value in the marketplace. So a lot of articles there, Novell to run. Internetware and NDS environments will remain less expensive to operate and maintain. Now that really sums up what we do. Lowers your cost of ownership. So there's a lot here. You can always read those if you choose to get a copy of this presentation. And there's success stories posted on our website. There are some reviews of the Novonix web server. Novonix is the research arm between Netscape and Novell. And together we ported the Fast Track and Enterprise web servers to NetWare. And they're very, very fast. Okay, so our products, and we have a lot of them. We must have about 100 part numbers still, but they pretty much boil down into these power brands, as we say. So directory services really is the glue that pulls them all together. It's the thing that makes it possible for you to define yourself only once. I'm Christiani, .shy, because I work out of Chicago office, .Americas, .Novell, and that's it. So that if I want to have permission to go to Gupanoff.com, Border Manager references that identity to see if I had permission to do it. When they hired me, made Christiani.shy.Americas.Novell, automatically a group-wide account was made for my messaging needs. ManageWise can visualize my workstation. Christiani, just one identity, one server, or 500 servers, doesn't matter. So directory services really, I think, is our most important power brand. But today, of course, we'll be looking at NetWare, GroupWise, our messaging product, ManageWise for network management, and Border Manager, our new product for internet connectivity. And that in itself is a suite of very powerful services. Okay, now getting to NetWare 5. Now, NetWare 5 has a few, I can boil it down anyway into a few very important enhancements. First thing is pure IP. And now we've been routing TCP/IP for years, of course, and we have already a solution that can be used if you want to have your workstation speak to a NetWare resource and get classic NetWare services, NCPs, Network Core Protocol services, equal logging in, using printers, mapping drives, that sort of thing. So NetWare IP we've had for years that takes an IP packet and puts a little IPX header inside that IP packet. And then you can use certain IP stacks like ours, Chameleon, and FTP to get NetWare services, speak to your NetWare server, from an IP-only workstation. That is roughly analogous to the solution right now in NT Server. However, we are a technology company rather than a marketing company. So when I tell you about NetWare IP, I tell you about that IPX header. And I tell you that it's more or less encapsulation. But there are some misconceptions that say with NT Server, it's native IP. And of course, in actuality, it's encapsulated NetBIOS. So our old NetWare IP products and the IP support in NT Server are roughly comparable. By pure IP, we mean we are separating and getting rid of any reliance that NetWare has on IPX. So with pure IP, you can use the IP stack of your choice and get any NetWare services. Of course, we have things that are IP services, pure IP services running already on NetWare. For example, with GroupWise, you can, from your workstation to your post office, speak IPX or pure TCP IP right now. So of course, that doesn't count. We're doing those services already for years. Web servers, of course, our web servers are standard IP-based web servers. But this will let you get NetWare services over IP, and we'll see that. Then we have IP management tools. Again, we've had a DNS server, DHCP server. Those are some of the things in the NetWare IP suite, product suite. So really, NetWare IP has several things in there, and among them, a DNS server and a DHCP server, managed by a kind of ugly, seaworthy utility. And we kept those databases on the server, just a flat database. Now we have directory-based DNS and DHCP services. So that information is kept in Novell Directory Services database, and it's managed now with a Java management utility. So we'll see that too. We have gone a long way with storage services. Storage is not commodity. If it weren't important, we wouldn't all be using storage. So storage is very important. I might say it's commodity if I didn't do it well. But file and print is not to be sneezed at. It's the thing that most networks are built on. So we've done a lot with the storage services. So I can't wait to tell you about Novell storage services. Very important. We've even done things to enhance Novell Directory Services. We've been running it now for about 5 years, and we're still enhancing it. We have some customers that are, well, we have a 5-user car wash in Elkhart, Indiana. They're very simple to service. However, we have customers that have wide area sites in major cities, and then they have one on an oil rig. So when you have a site, an office on an oil rig, you don't want that remote link coming up all the time. It's very expensive. So we have facilities to make that WAN traffic that has to do with the directory schedule itself. So just enhancing that. Catalog services, we'll get to that in a bit. ZenWorks, very important new product. So it's been released now, and ZenWorks is a desktop management product. We'll see that there's a little version of it, the ZenWorks Starter Pack, or ZenWorks Lite, if you will, included in NetWare 5. It's just another advantage of having a directory-enabled network. We've rewritten a lot of the kernel, so we have kernel enhancements. So now the same kernel handles uniprocessing and multiprocessing. We have memory protection, virtual memory. So now when you run out of memory, of course, you pretend you have more, like with Unix and NT. You just swap out the disk. But more on that later. We are bundling, Oracle 8, a 5-user version of Oracle database with every version of NetWare. Of directory-enabled NetWare. So now if you own or you're buying NetWare 4.11 or above, you can fulfill Oracle 8. So if you don't have it already, you can request that. Java Virtual Machine, very important at Novell. Java, of course, is the platform that lets you write it once, run it anywhere. So if I were a developer, I would think that's just about the best thing invented since Pocket. So instead of now writing something for a certain platform and porting it, then you can write it once. And it's also very powerful for systems administrators, for end users. Think of how you select applications right now. Application developers are making choices for you right now with respect to your infrastructure. Because when you select a product, you've got to turn the box over and see what it runs on. So if it runs on NetWare and not NT, or Unix and not NT, then that developer has made your decision for you, what platform you run in your office. But with Java, as long as you buy 100% pure Java applications, they run on any Java virtual machine. The NetWare server, your Windows workstation, your Macintosh, Atari, whatever, has a Java virtual machine. Okay, a little bit more now, just a little bit more in depth on those things, those bullets that we covered. So pure IP, so there's the long play version of pure IP, which is to say that, again, we can get Novell core protocol services, classic network services over IP, getting rid of that tunneling. But what we're really saying is that in the past, we've had to write network core protocol services over IPX. Those two services were dependent on each other. Now we've broken that dependence, and now NCPs can write over IP. The other thing that people would like to get rid of, say in large environments, is to not apply to the 5-user car wash in Elkhart, Indiana, but in large environments or wide area environments, you might want to get rid of the ping-pong nature of IPX and the staffing and ripping. So with IPX, works fine, lasts a long time, local area network, here's the packet, did you get the packet? Or with our packet burst, here's a bunch of packets, did you get them? So we've done a lot of enhancements to IPX to make it wide area friendly and large network friendly. But if you wish to run TCP/IP for whatever the reason, you can do that. Also, there's the issue of service advertising protocol. You've got every printer saying, I'm a printer, would anyone like to print? Your file servers, different services on IPX, they have to stop every 60 seconds. And again, on a local area network, who cares? That's absolutely fine. But on a wide area network, then you may not want to know every 60 seconds that there's still a printer in New York. Okay, so since IP is not a stat-based protocol, then you would get rid of this issue of the ping-pong nature, here's the packet, acknowledgement of the packet, also the staffing, the service advertising protocol, and also, for that matter, RIP, routing information protocol. Here's the entire network as I know of it every 60 seconds. So what we get from that is, for whatever the reason, and there can be a few of them, that you wish to run TCP/IP in addition to or completely instead of IP, you may do that now. So if you're accessing the internet and you feel, well, I've got to have IP for that, so I might as well keep it down to management of one protocol, that's a perfectly valid reason to do it. Just manage one protocol. So now, we're completely protocol independent. However, if you have an existing environment, then you may not want to have that weekend pizza party conversion all at once, from IPX to IP. So that's why we give you backwards compatibility tools. It's the same way as when we went from our old NetWare 2x, 3x based bindery systems, where you have a file server and users and printers, and then another file server, you have to start all over the users and printers and so on. So we got rid of all the walls between the servers with Novell Directory Services, but what if you have applications or printers or fax servers or backup software that only speak IPX and they're not Directory Services smart? You'll have the same issue here. You may own resources that are not IP compliant. They only support IPX. So that's why we have these tools in here to support you in your coexistence and or migration. So this migration agent will let you place IPX and IP devices on your network, and both of those will be able to visualize and use each other. Here's a picture of it. Okay, suppose you have existing IPX clients. They're on an IPX network. Of course, they've got to, in order to visualize a printer, they expect him to SAP his existence every 60 seconds. I'm a printer. Would you like to print? I'm a file server. Would you like to log in? So he must consume SAP. And he consumes IPX packets. Then also you might have an IP LAN that you wish to keep pure IP, or you want to mix them on the same network. At any rate, I could have an IP LAN, here's my TCP IP LAN, and I could even have an IPX resource like a printer or a workstation that only has client software that speaks IPX. And that IPX can be encapsulated and placed in an IP packet like this. Now this little pink block is on an IP LAN. How does he do things like locate and use an IP-based printer? IP printers don't SAP. So how is this IPX resource going to find another IPX resource on an IP-only LAN? Well now, on our IP LANs, we're going to locate things not from SAPing and consuming SAP, but through service location protocol. So now instead of listening for SAPs that are spewed out onto the network every 60 seconds, we will check in with NDS, the service location protocol, which the client supports and NDS supports, and locate printers, servers, the like, that way. So it's not SAP-based. Between you have this migration agent. So he could set everything on one LAN, so you could have both IP and IPX resources on one LAN, and this migration agent would take care of listening to SAPs, registering them in the service location protocol database for IP resources to just look up in the table. And the same way, the other way around. I have an IP-based printer. He doesn't SAP, but I know I have IPX devices that need to locate them that way, so he can SAP for those IP-based devices. So that's if you want to interoperate everything on the same network. If you wish to segregate them, IP LAN and then an IPX LAN, he can sit in the middle this way and operate as a gateway. So once again, he sees SAPs, registers them into the database, doesn't SAP on your IP LAN, and the same way the other way around. He sees the IP devices, and then he SAPs their existence out on the IPX LAN. So suffice to say, we let you interoperate and or migrate at your own pace. It's a backwards compatibility product. Okay. And please, I like questions whenever you wish to ask them. So if there are any questions on that, I'll go on to the IP management. Again, DNS and DHCP servers right in NetWare 5. The ZenWorks starter pack. ZenWorks, again, is a suite of services. First of all is the application management, or the Novell Application Launcher version 2.5, and we'll see a peek of that really quickly. I'll need to go on quickly. ZenWorks, we have a full package, and then again, that starter pack. So the starter pack included with NetWare 5, or you can purchase ZenWorks. So ZenWorks is the superset. You get, of course, the application management and the desktop management, as in policies dispersed by NDS. So wherever I go, log into NDS, it knows what wallpaper I need, whether or not I should be able to get into the control panel and such. With the full ZenWorks product, I have remote control. Of course, that's not new in the market, but most remote control products are broadcast-based and not secure. The ZenWorks remote control is not broadcast-based because you locate PCs to remote control in your NDS database. And it's secure because you need NDS permission to remote control workstations. We have Novell distributed print services. So for a long time, I could do something simple like tell me when my print job is printed. Now we have bi-directional control of printers. I want you to get paper out of bin 2. Tell me that the bin is empty. Plug in print. Put the NDS compliant, NDP, printer on your network. He automatically registers himself, makes the necessaries in Novell directory services, the print server, the print queue, and lets you print. Also, the print drivers, they can be stored in NDS so that when workstations come onto the network that should be using the color plot, they just download the print driver. The NDS enhancements I was talking about, WAN traffic manager, other things, catalog services. That's a powerful construct that will make possible things like I can go to Novell Addis Ababa and just say, I'm D. Christiani. I don't have to know that, oh, I'm D. Christiani, .shy.americas.novell. I'll just say, I'm D. Christiani. I'll say, are you the one in Chicago or the one in Paris? Role-based administration for passwords. Certain enhancements that make it easy to give a person the right to just change passwords and nothing else. Novell storage services. This is the next step in our file system. NSS is not a file system, rather it's a new way of accessing file systems. Consider the way you access files now. The name of a file is linked with where it is. The name of the file is garbage.txt, that's just a common name. His full name is C:, the name of the volume, therefore physically where it is, /data/garbage.txt. And since the name of it is all hung up with where it is, you can't very well move it. So this is an obstacle to things like clustering. So NSS decouples the where the file is from what it is. So NSS supports NetWare file systems and other file systems like CD-ROMs, digital video disks, the DOS partition on your server. So NSS just forms the interface to your file systems. Yes, please. On how one sets up NSS? Well, what it has is an entry. Once again, it's a directory-based technology. So it stores things, yes, on disk, but it needs to know where the volumes are, and then in a decoupled fashion, the directory knows where that volume is right now. So here's the name of the file, garbage.txt, and then through some APIs, then we reference where that volume is right now. Right now the volume's here, but suppose you had a cluster and it had to switch over to somewhere else because this PC failed. Now you'd happen to be garbage.txt, sure I'm on this volume, but where's the volume right now? The volume moved, well we now reference a volume on this PC rather than that PC. But what it means to me today, what NSS means to me today, first of all, is huge volumes. So really, theoretically, unlimited volume sizes. This is what it means to you today in NetWare 5. Large volumes, they mount in practically no time. We had about a terabyte running at BrainShare this year, and with a dirty restart, just cut the power. We're having people just turn the key for us, cut the power, and it would mount again in 3 seconds. Because now instead of having the file system and you take the directory entry table and hash it and cache it and read it into RAM, there's a journaling system now. So it's kind of like our old transaction tracking system but integrated with the file system. So if something bad should happen, like the floor wax or dismount, then this journaling just backs out the bad transactions. So what it means to me today, huge volumes. Also, we got rid of the linear relationship between amount of storage and the amount of RAM that you need to spin it up. Because right now it's just a finite amount to even have a volume because you got to read that directory entry table into RAM. That's gone. If you have a terabyte, 16 terabytes, doesn't matter. You can run that on 32 megs of RAM with NSS. So gone are the long mount times and the dependence on amount of RAM to the space. In time, as in by next year, then we'll be into things like clustering, where this volume can move to another cluster, because once again we've decoupled where it is with what it is. Okay, memory protection. We have for years kind of been dinged with the Ring 0, Ring 3 religion. As in, if you run NLM's network loadable modules or code right in with the kernel, it's fast. But if that NLM is badly behaved, he crashes, then you can crash the kernel. If you run them out in Ring 3 and have them say, please may I run in the kernel, then that costs you. Nothing is free in this world. That's why anything that is the truth, everyone will figure it out sooner or later. So with NT server, you run things in Ring 3, and of course it costs you in performance. That's why they've been moving things like display drivers into the kernel. So now we decided to kind of take the Burger King approach to this. So with memory protection, through APIs, applications can choose to run with the kernel or out in Ring 3 in protected areas. So through APIs, or I can even manually create an address space and load something into that address space. So now you can have it your way. Okay, virtual memory. Again, once we run out of space, RAM, then we swap out the disk. Multiprocessing kernel, talked about that. Want to get to the good part, Java. So the Java virtual machine comes with the NetWare, and we'll be adding things like just-in-time compilers. Your first use of the Java virtual machine will be an installation of the product, because the installation starts seaworthy like anything else, like Windows, and then about in the middle of it, it kicks into the Java virtual machine, installs it, and then you do the rest of the installation in the GUI framework. Console 1 is the name of our Java infrastructure that we will use to replace things that you think of like with NWAdmin. Because with NWAdmin we have so many flavors of it, because we have so many flavors of Windows in the corporate environment. So we wrote classic NWAdmin. Then there was a 95 version and an NT version. Now we have a 32-bit version that at least you can use for NT and 95. But that is a never-ending treadmill. So that's why we decided to just get off of that treadmill and write to Java. So we write it one more time, but now we're done. So you will use that to install, and I'd like to show you that. The installation, as I said, is Java-based. There's just a little picture of it. Fast Track server we talked about. Since we're running out of time, I want to go over to the server really quickly and have a look at that virtual machine. Okay, now that's not very exciting. That just looks like the usual NetWare console. But if we tab over to, now this is my Java virtual machine. And again, he installs himself during the installation. And under here you have a little Windows 95-ish, NT-ish start menu. And you can, it comes with things on the menu, and you can add other Java applications to that menu. And among them here you have Console 1. So again, the Console 1 installs himself when you install the NetWare. And right now I'm running it on the NetWare server, but since it's a Java application, you could run this anywhere that has a Java virtual machine. So again, Console 1 will replace things like NWAdmin in time after everyone who has written to NWAdmin, including us, has ported things over to Java. The next thing that you'll see after, well, NWAdmin that will run in this Console 1 framework will be our ManageWise console, because we had a Windows 3X console for ManageWise. Then everybody said, we're going to use Windows 95 in the corporate environment. And about the time that came out and we had our console, it said, never mind, we're going to NT. So now we need to write an NT console. Again, we need to just get off of that merry-go-round and use Java. So here's Console 1. And here's my server, and on here you have your files, and you can edit your AutoExec into your boot files. And you have a little entry-level editor here, so you can view them and actually edit your files. Is that thrilling? I'm thrilled anyway, but you know, I'm an old NetWare person, so now you have to dust off those mice that came with your file server. At any rate, and here we have a console manager here, and I'm going to just connect here. And here I have, our console. Doesn't save me many steps right now since I'm at the server, but of course we could be running this anywhere that we have a virtual machine. There's an alternate console. So this could come in handy so you don't have to hang out in the server room, which on a day like this could be pretty unpleasant. Put this over here. Oh, this is the one I want. Okay, so there's your alternate console. There's your sys volume, your usual sys volume, your NSS volume, so you can install NSS volumes during the installation. And the thing to remember about NSS is that, like NetWare, it has to sit on its own partition. So you'll need to have unallocated space to put down an NSS partition, and on that NSS partition, put NSS volume. So you'll have a sys volume and then however many NSS volumes you'd like. So let's move on. Then we have some other things, the performance monitor, so you can get an idea of how your server is performing. And there's your CPU usage, because nothing's free once again. So if I move the mouse really fast, I can impact my CPU utilization. But the good thing about this GUI is that use it while you need it and unload it if you're not using it. Then you have NetWare parameters, and you can view these parameters and change them in here. So you would simply change the setting and then hit that little apply button. So are you sold yet? How much would you pay now? It was pretty good. And here we can look at our file caching. All of the server parameters, I can view and change them in here. See what processes we have running, process IDs, but let's move on. Our volumes, there are those volumes again, and I can visualize the contents of those volumes. Now the first time you do this, you will have to authenticate to the server so it is secure. So you can view these files and edit them, because remember there is an editor in here. And here you can have shortcuts to other applications, like your little Java applets. And again, it's just something to entertain you while you're standing around in the server room. And now here's your NDS tree. There are my trees, my one NDS tree. And again, the first time you attempt to access that, then you'll need to authenticate. And then once I do, I can get down in that tree and manage it. And there's my organization, EMI. And on the right, I should see what's in that tree, my organizational unit, and there they are. So those are my users. So I can see them, and I can create users. I can do pretty much everything that I do right now in my base schema or my NDS database as it comes right out of the box from Novell. So I can create users, create groups, add people to groups, things like that. We'll have to wait for everyone to develop to Java to support extended schema. In other words, when you install a brand new product like GroupWise, and it enhances your database. So here you can view effective rights, change inherited rights maps, all of that NetWare trivia that you NetWare people know about. So you had pretty much all of those NWAdmin functionalities in there. NDS rights, restrictions, so pretty much all of the basic NWAdmin stuff is in there. So now we free you up from having to be at a workstation at all. Yes, please. I'm sorry, you mentioned NT as in using an NT server in your environment or working from an NT workstation or server as a client to this? You mean domain users? Is that what you're referring to? Okay, so what he's asking about is what if I have a mixed environment and I have not only NDS but domains? One of our other products, NDS4NT, is designed to help you administer domains, because there's a lot of great things about NT Server, but most people don't buy it because they want a domain. So what you can do, since the domain is a flat, finite database the way our old bindery was, we can write that into existence into the NDS database since it's an extensible database. So what that product does, NDS4NT, is that you would import, if you will, your domain or domains into NDS. And once you do that, you can either work from NWAdmin to create users, put them in domains, take them out, or you can use User Manager for domains. So what it gives you is a transparent embracing of the domain into the Novell Directory Services database. So that's a product that exists right now, and this is really separate from what we're considering right now. So we are seeing things like groups and things in our NDS tree, but what I'm saying is that we could also visualize domains in that NDS database. And then when I have one domain or 16 of them, I mean, why do you usually have trust relationships? That's one of the problems with it, because I'm in this domain, want to use stuff in that domain. I'll be with you in a second. So you don't need trust relationships with this product, because just with a couple of mouse clicks, you can be made a member of all 16 domains. Or now you're not in that domain, but you're a member of that one. So it pretty much solves a lot of the problems with domains right now. Trust relationships and the fact that it's impossible to move someone from one domain to another. But that's a separate product, NDS4NT, and that's existed for a while now. Yes, sir. What happens when you extend the schema? Okay, when you extend it, we got a couple of issues there. When you extend the schema, you're just causing the database to have some more fields, if you will. So that's really a separate issue, kind of, from the DLL issue at the workstations. So when you cause your NDS database to have more fields, you want to add those fields, and that's an issue of where the database lives. Well, on the servers is where it lives, but the other thing is that I want NWAdmin, the Windows utilities that I use to manage this stuff historically, to be able to visualize and manage these things, and that's where the DLLs come in. Well, there is an SDK. There's been a software development kit. It was released, I think, early this year or late last year to developers so that they could write to this interface. So now, instead of having to write the object into existence and then write the DLLs and, oh, are we going to write a DLL for Windows 3X, 95 NT, 98, and so on, they can just write using the API just to console one, and they're all done. Does that answer your question?
I mean, I guess that you're going to have to stick with it and change that on this particular console. Is that represented
Oh, in Novell Directory Services, since its inception is a distributed, replicated database, which just means it's a database that looks like one big thing from any workstation I use throughout my environment. Now, just between us, the system administrators know that I can, if it calls for it, take NDS and take chunks of it, like records 0 through 10, and store those records on this server, and store 11 through 20 on that server, or I can store 0 through 10 on that server and that server and that server for performance and fault tolerance. So this issue of whether I see them here or not is kind of separate from the facilities of distribution and replication of NDS. So it's a really robust database for reasons that I can't tell just by looking at this, because no matter how many pieces I separate NDS in, it still looks like one great big tree structure. So. Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I have servers out there, and I don't know if it's a team or not, but I'm wondering if it doesn't matter because it's something.
Oh, okay. I think I understand what you're saying. So he's describing, suppose you install an application that extends your database, extends the schema, but then I grab a workstation, and he doesn't know the schema is extended. So although it is possible to have the Coke machine object in NDS, I can't visualize it. Well, there are some facilities that you might want to look into, the network registry, that could cause those DLLs to, instead of you install the DLL to this workstation and he sees the Coke machine, but you go to this other one and he doesn't, there's a way of having those DLLs follow you around the network. Instead of installing it just to this registry, have them stored up in NDS and they follow you around. That's the network registry. So that would solve that issue that you have right there. So that would solve that. But again, you still have the issue of when you buy that new product, did they write a DLL for Windows, this, that, and the other, Macintosh, Unix? So that's what this will take care of. Okay, now what we're saying here, now that's a Java question. See, Java, you're freed of this DLL tyranny. Because, well, I mean, I enjoy DLLs actually, but this way, the visualization of the Coke machine would be written into these Java applications. So Java is by its nature modular. It's kind of C-like if you do any programming. So it's modular. You'd write into existence the Coke machine, and it would be available wherever the Java code lives, you see. So Java applications can be made to run wholly on the server, wholly on the client, or client server. At any rate, there's no such thing as the DLL issue with Java. Well, I think I'd probably like to talk to you after the session, because we're kind of mixing issues of permission with issues of Windows DLLs and how Java is different from that. So let's talk after the session if we could. I wanted to give you a peek at another utility that I have running here before I let you go, and that is the DNS and DHCP server configuration utility. So we just saw a Java application, console 1, running on the NetWare file server, right? Which has never heard of DLL, fair enough? And here we have the DHCP and DNS configuration utility. This is also a Java application, and it's running on my WindowsNT workstation. So let's keep in mind Java runs anywhere, so I could run this if I want on the server and console 1 on my workstation. That's the whole point of that. No DLL and completely portable. So all you need to know is, okay, here's my Atari. Does there exist a Java virtual machine for Atari? If so, I can run console 1 and I can run this utility that we're looking at. No such thing as DLL. So you have the portability. So here we have the facilities that I had back in my old DNS DHCP servers and more. So things like I can take my addresses, any range of addresses, and I can say that's dynamic boot P, like for my old Windows 3X workstations. We support old 16-bit workstations that don't understand DHCP, which really that just means I'll give you an IP address and you can keep it for 99 years. So we support boot P. We support DHCP, so we support IP address leasing because, again, nothing's free. Now you have pure IP, but now you got to worry about the IP addressing. So that's why we give you these tools to help you with the IP management. So this way, DHCP for your 32-bit clients. Also, you might have things that you need for the addresses to stay stuck to just certain devices like hubs, so you know what you're talking to. So it supports static IP addresses, and it supports some excluded. So suppose you have, like, of course, the power users in the office. I want to have my own range of IP addresses, and I don't want to get them from the server. Or you have some hub that's manageable, but you don't want him managed. So you have devices that just ignore him if he asks for an address, or these addresses here, they're reserved for somebody else. So you have to have all those in your DHCP server. Also, we even support Windows clients. So if you have Microsoft, again, with its IP implementation, it's really NetBIOS in there, and it's got to map NetBIOS names to IP. So you can support Windows clients. So when they boot up, they can be given an IP address and Windows configuration as well. So it's really nice, robust DHCP server, and yes, it does play well with others. So if you have Unix DNS servers, he can be a subnet to your DNS running somewhere else. So the DNS server and DHCP server, that just comes all with Netware 5. Okay, there's a lot to Netware 5, just a few other resources that you have, because as you see, there's really not enough time to treat this subject today. But there are what we call a first class. And first class is a one-day class. It's kind of an introductory class that's meant for end users and systems administrators, I should say, that are in the end user base versus the designer base. And it's one day to get you familiar with some of these things, the DHCP server, the pure IP, and that sort of thing. So that's a one-day thing. It will be offered at Novell authorized education centers and AECs in the area. And then your integrators, your friendly neighborhood integrators, will be taking boot camps. And the boot camps, we truck them out to Utah to see us. And we train them, and then they come back and train systems administrators. So at the very end of this, I have a couple of URLs, and if anyone needs to have a copy of this presentation, then just send me email to get it. So I'll just flip down to some of this. Forgive me, I can't go right to where I need to go. Okay. Are there any questions while I do this?
The latest estimate of the release date.
The release date. See there, I almost got away without the hard questions. We like to say July 32nd. And let me tell you why I say that. Because Dr. Schmidt is very serious about this product shipping on time. I mean, if it doesn't ship on time, I'm sure I'll get a call, and a couple of you folks will have to come with me to write code in Provo. They're very serious about that. However, there are some things that I think it's a good reason for slipping a few days. For example, remember we were talking about how WindowsNT server has been doing encapsulation of NetBIOS for years, and we encapsulate an IPX header. Yet there's this misconception that we don't do IP and that they do native IP. Well, one of our clients, our Windows 95 client, by default was loading that compatibility mode driver. It just means I speak IP. Unless something comes along that's got to speak IPX to me, then I'll speak IPX. But if you were to load that up, and then if you were to do a packet capture and have a look in there, you would see IPX and come to incorrection that we require IPX and we do not. But you may own other things like application software, tape backup software, print servers, any number of things that do require IPX. But we felt very strongly that should be taken out, and the default should be pure IP. And if you need IPX compatibility, add that. And knowing that that's going to probably generate a few more support calls, we just think that it's very important so that we don't encourage any more misconceptions like we have in the industry right now. So pure IP is exactly that. Netware requires no IPX. Yes, please. So there's the home page, first class.
issues that I have as a developer for Novell is client software. There's a big problem with doing Novell accepting Microsoft's building clients, for 95 and does this mean that for Netware 5 that all clients are going to require, client 32? Because if you have the native IP on Netware 5 servers, you're also going to have, the older servers probably, as people swap. So how is that going to impact those servers? I mean, are the new clients going to be able to handle all of that?
Okay. When you install the client, and you do need to use our new client, when you install it, you tell them whether you're going to support IP only, IPX only, or both. So if you know you have a mixed environment of servers that do and do not speak IPX, you can, if you wish, load up IPX support on your workstation. But there's other things you can do. Remember that migration gateway that we have. So you could load pure IP on your clients and then place a gateway between them and the servers that are IPX based. That's another way of doing it. Further, you'd be using our client plus anybody's IP stack. So what you'd have, for example, on this NT workstation, what I have on this station is the Internet Work Client for WindowsNT, and then I have the Microsoft IP stack. Now, why don't I just use the Microsoft provider? Well, as you probably know, the Microsoft provider for NetWare Network ships with every box of NT and 95, and you can see that I have only IP. And it's the Microsoft TCP IP stack. But they're over in services. I have the Novell client for WindowsNT, and that's necessary because their client is good basic connectivity, but they haven't written it to have full NDS awareness. For example, you can only log into one tree at a time, and you can specify preferred server, and that's a good thing. With our client for NT, I have things like over 45 tunable parameters for this client. So it's important to us to not give you vanilla, or you can have vanilla. So things like automatic reconnect. If the server should go down, or the router between you and the server goes down, I can automatic reconnect. So if I have a transaction, online transaction environment, I probably want my client-side caching way down because I don't want transactions caught in the RAM if I should lose power. But if I just want performance, I want client-side caching, and I want automatic reconnect down to level 2. So it's much more powerful client, but use the stack of your choice. So, and the other thing that you must be thinking of is that we've not done as good a job as we could have in the past with developers. So I don't know if you know we have Chris Stone now, which is another one of Dr. Eric's colleagues from the past, and he is a development person. He's done a lot of open solutions architecture that we want to directly address development issues. So it's not just the Java, but also the clients, the SDK, yes?
Yeah, I think it's from the development perspective, the biggest thing, because, I mean, maybe not so much in the universities, but out there in the world, these guys set up machines real quick, and Microsoft client is built in. Yet, stupid when it comes to network support. So, when you ship Netware 5, and all these sites putting in workstations, so they're going to require Novell's client in order to connect.
You won't need our client and anybody's IP stack. But you say, yes, it comes with a product, and that's a good thing. But let's actually examine that a little bit closer. And I think that it's kind of common to, well, I have that, and that looks great. I mean, it comes with the client, with the software package, and they even give you MS batch, so you can deploy that client in the process of installing the operating system, and that's good. On the other hand, it doesn't have facilities for keeping it up up to date. And we've got facilities not only for installing that client automatically, but also keeping it up to date with automatic client updates.
Well, I want everybody to use Novell because it makes my life easier as a developer. But I guess there has to be some reason to force them, and if Network 5 does force them, then...
Well, back when 95 came out, could be if we had gotten our client out a couple of months sooner, they never would have written one for NetWare, but they did, and now you're forced to choose between the two. And we publish our APIs. We don't have secret APIs. We publish ours. But they have to be written to properly. For example, again, the Microsoft provider for NetWare doesn't properly implement file and print sharing peer-to-peer because he can theoretically supposed to pretend to be a Network 3 server so that then you can share files and printers between your workstations. But he advertises that he's a 3X server, but then speaks Network 2 API. So we can't control that if they write them properly to the APIs or they give you an incomplete NDS support set like single tree. But so all we can do is publish the APIs and help people develop to it. And the other thing is that we're developing a 0-byte client too, so that might help you too in the future. Okay, I just want to let everyone go that needs to go. I kept you over school, and thanks so much for staying, but I'll be here as long as there are any other questions.